What's up, guys? It's Sage from No Contest Wrestling, and today I'm chopping it up with Randy Carver from Limitless Wrestling. Let's get into it.
My first question is really basic one, is what is Limitless Wrestling?
So we call it the Pine Tree State Pro Wrestling Party because there really hasn't been anything like this in the state of Maine before. The wrestling scene was kind of depleted when we came around in 2015. So it was really a mission to kind of revitalize Maine wrestling and to introduce some styles of wrestling that have really never been seen here before. And it was something that we started with, like the Maine State Posse, Ace Romero, Anthony Green, guys who were either are consistent or were very consistent in Limitless Wrestling for a long time. And from there, we just kind of built forward, having kind of a platform for wrestlers to use to maybe have matches they would never have other places, or to put some of the best that not only Maine, but New England or the Northeast in general has to offer against some of the best in the world, because we've had a lot of opportunities to work with a ton of great talent from the United States, out of the country. Missing a lot of our wrestlers from Canada right now who can't come in. But it's all encapsulated. It's such a unique thing because there's so many different styles that can come here and really flourish, because from day one, we've really tried to present everything. That's why the name really rings true of Limitless, because there's comedy matches, there's your American take on strong style, there's high flyers, there's powerhouses. I love the hoss fights that we've been able to have over the years. That's a personal favorite of me. So you definitely see that flavor in there. But I've always loved the term all different flavors of ice cream, because there's so much that professional wrestling can do. And I think it's all about giving people the platform to do something like that. So with Limitless Wrestling over the past 5 years, that's kind of what we've tried to do, is just continue to introduce the rising stars of the Northeast, continue to bring in some of the people who I bet Maine wrestling fans would bet that they would never see in a ring inside the state of Maine. And just to try to keep it going and to try to build from within and keep the structure of Limitless Wrestling strong.
You mentioned one guy, right? One guy that I associate Limitless Wrestling with, like, he's a staple in my opinion, right? And this is Ace Romero. Like, the people who like check out No Contest, they love Ace Romero. Like,
hell yeah.
One guy is just like, how is this possible? His movement and everything. So tell us a little bit about Ace Romero and Limitless Wrestling.
So he's one of my best friends as it sits today. But when I first met him, I did not like him at all. We met in the local circle because Ace is a Saco, Maine native. So he's from Southern Maine, was really getting his footing in the Maine independent scene in 2013. He had done some training at the Team 3D Academy as well as the New England Pro Wrestling Academy. So he had a very good background of training, and we just grew very close over the couple of years leading up to Limitless Wrestling. I think it was very apparent that he was someone who took this seriously. And that's something that I really admire about people from, especially when they start young in the business, is that they can grow such a love, determination, and passion for doing this. And I love the people who kind of keep on their own path and really keep moving forward. And he was one of those few people around here, because Maine was really stagnant at that time. A lot of people didn't really, and I think it compares to New York very well, where it's either such a big state or there's so much to do that you don't really break out of that circle. And he was one of the few people who really wanted to take the steps to break out of that circle. He ended up moving to Rhode Island to train with Biff Busick for a while, moved to Ohio to train with Sami Callihan. But all the while, he was someone who, the early building blocks of Limitless Wrestling, we really talked about it together a lot. We kind of had a lot of ideas that we threw back and forth. And he was the building block from day one. He was one half of the first ever main event that we had. He had a lot of the marquee matchups in the first couple of years of Limitless Wrestling. I look at like the AR Fox matches. I look at the stuff with Donovan Dijak, just to name a few. He really held it down and was just such a big proponent of what we were doing. Even when I felt that, like, looking back, I don't think I knew what the hell I was doing early on. You know, it's a lot of learning on the job, especially when you don't have much experience. And he was someone who just stuck it through the bad times and good, because they weren't always good. He was such a reliable person for us to build upon, and just continued to deliver, continued to beat himself up, and just have these incredible matches that have now been seen by a ton of people for, at the beginning for maybe 100 people, and it just grew from there. He believed in the vision that we were putting forth, and I can never give him enough credit for that.
When I saw the AR Fox match with Ace, I was like, wow, he's like, I've never saw the intensity in like him going in war with someone.
Yeah.
Like, I would say Limitless Wrestling essentially put him on that platform in a way that I've never saw him. Like, I was like, wow, this guy, like, aside from doing those like suicide dives through the ropes, he can really bring it, you know?
Yeah.
He's definitely had some like awesome matches that people have always are like in the comment section are like, oh my God, like how is this possible? Like how is this guy so like light?
Yeah.
He's not your typical big man. And then I think that's what we all love about him.
Yeah.
So Darby Allin versus Jeff Cobb. What made you say this is a match that I know fans are going to want to see? Because like I've seen it in other places, I've seen it everywhere else, but what made you feel like I need to have this happen here?
So it's a pretty funny story because it wasn't the original match we were going with. It was originally going to be Darby Allin versus Michael Elgin. And some things changed in that time frame. I won't get into it, but it was kind of cool that it ended up being Jeff Cobb after everything that happened, because he was like one of the first people I hit up, because it was just, I really loved Darby. And I think now people are starting to see that with AEW because they're doing a lot of it too. Darby in that fight against someone who probably outsizes him by 2 or 3 times. I think that's Darby hitting a home run every time. It's him at his highest potential. He just thrives in a situation where it's big guy, little guy, and he has to bring the fight. And Jeff Cobb felt like a perfect person for that situation. You knew that he was going to toss Darby Allin halfway across the ring, but you also knew that Darby Allin was going to get up and he was going to fire off his best shots at Jeff Cobb. And Darby's someone I miss so much because he is like just perfect in any slot of a show. I wish we got to do a ton more with him, but that Jeff Cobb match is up for free on YouTube. I'd highly suggest checking it out because it's such a fun match, and it's one that I hope that we get to see on TV sometime soon.
Especially him versus Ace too. I thought that was like a dope.
Yeah, they did some nutty stuff.
Yeah, like he's definitely that underdog. Like you're always rooting for him, even if you're just seeing him. Like he puts his whole body out there, and he's just like he's going and going and going. You're just like, how are you able to endure all this pain? This is absurd. This is madness. You know, taking a couple bumps in the ring is intense already.
Yeah,
you just want to cheer for him more.
Yeah.
So another match is Myron Reed versus Christian Casanova. This match was like one of the few matches that like piqued my interest in like Christian, and I was like, dude, this dude has presence, you know, this dude has swagger. This guy should be a champion. Tell me a little bit about that match. What led to that match? And tell us a little bit about Christian.
So that match, the first one happened at Twilight Zone, which was our first IWTV live stream. And I think that show is such a pivotal turning point for Christian Casanova, not only to kind of get more eyes on him in general, but with the Limitless audience specifically. He had been someone, he had been with Stokely Hathaway for a while as a part of the Dream Team, really struggled to kind of find his footing for a while. He was on the first ever Limitless show, so he's been here quite some time, but there have been stops and starts for him. And I think the Myron Reed match, first one, and the second one was at Practice What You Preach. Both of them are exceptional matches, but the first one specifically, I think was just on another level. I think they really just came to hit it out of the park. They absolutely did. Christian Casanova is so smooth in the ring. I just don't think anyone is really even in his ballpark right now. And I mean, I hate to say that. It's not a slight on other people. It just shows how much work, how much dedication Christian Casanova has for his craft. And those matches with Myron, they just, sometimes you get two people who feel like a perfect pair. I kind of felt that way with Ace Romero and AR Fox, and I feel that way about Christian and Myron, because really, if the pandemic did not happen, I think that match would have been a lot of different places throughout the year. I think that's one of those matches that could have traveled to any promotion. And it was a big return for Myron Reed, too. He hadn't been in Limitless Wrestling for over a year. So what a way to come back and have tear the house down with Christian. But later that night, Christian would insert himself into the title picture, rightfully so, getting his first shot at the Limitless Wrestling Championship a few months later. And just, it's been an incredible metamorphosis, because he is someone who I got to see some of the first matches of, being, you know, he was a young wrestler in New England coming up the same time that I was. So to see that he's grown from the Thriller of New England, which he was originally, to in the Dream Team with Stokely Hathaway, to now the top talent and the champion, Christian has just done wonders. And I think just lived up to the hype and more for what people expected of him.
You mentioned pandemic. You adapted to the pandemic. That's one thing. A lot of promotions were really like scratching their heads, trying to figure out how to work wrestling into the pandemic. I thought wrestling was going to die. This is a contact sport. This is something where there's no social distancing.
Right.
How did you approach this whole thing? Like, how did you get the road started during the pandemic? How did you adjust it?
So I think we've been lucky in the sense that Maine had, up until recently, Maine was doing so like the best of most states in the country in terms of COVID cases. And for a while throughout the summer into the fall, we were in double digits only if for cases per day. It'd be like 50, the next day would be 18. And it was like, all right, like we're doing great. Everything is fine. That gave us kind of the leeway with how the governor of Maine and how everything was really rationed out in terms of like no curfews, in terms of gatherings, all that. So we had a little bit more leeway than some other states around us. So that gave us the freedom to at least start planning. And then when you start planning, it's okay, what precautions are we going to take? How do we do this right so that we're not risking safety just to do this wrestling show? Because you don't want anything bad to happen, especially during a nationwide pandemic, during a global pandemic. It's risky. At the end of the day, it's risky because there's not 100% certainty ever, but we laid down a pretty good guideline for COVID precautions. We were requiring COVID tests for people who are on the road. Negative test gets you obviously on the show. If you were positive, obviously you're not going to be there. But we've had, knock on wood, we've had great luck so far. We've had no issues thus far. And it's gone great. We've really had to change the format of how we do events because obviously there's no fans there. We have worked with our venues to kind of lay down a guideline and lay down, we have to limit the people in the building to probably 40 people. We have to make sure we have all these negative tests in place. We have to socially distance when we can. If not in the ring, everybody's wearing a mask, spaced out. We have hand sanitizer everywhere. It's kind of crazy to think about what sanitation was a year ago at shows compared to what it is now, because it's so clean. We're wiping down the ring and the ropes after every single match, disinfecting. There's so many other elements that go into it. But honestly, like I do feel safe when we do these tapings, and I think everybody else does too. And it's nice that we've been able to have this time to kind of find a groove in what will work for us in the future, because I don't see this going away anytime soon. And we want to continue to do this. We want to continue to provide content because the time frame from March to June until we taped that first season of The Road, granted, it was a nice step back, and it was a nice kind of to take a step back from everything and just look and feel what we wanted to do moving forward. But overall, it sucked because not only for me, but for the wrestlers, especially some were making a living off this. Some had to go, try to get jobs in the worst time to get jobs in recent history. It was a very tough time, but I think having something like this where the wrestlers are now getting more matches out there that they can send to other promotions that are now starting to run shows, because some places are actually running shows with fans. I don't know how they're doing it, but they're doing it and seemingly safely in a lot of places. So it's giving them something to kind of get themselves out there again. It's giving us content to be able to put out on a weekly basis. I think it's a win-win for everybody involved. And a lot of wrestlers are not only having great matches on the road, but they're working their way up to bigger opportunities. I look at the Vacation Land Cup we had to close last year. Iron Rip Bison, Becca, Davey Ann, all stars on the road, in my opinion, now, finding themselves in secure spots on the big shows that we have. So it's been a really fun ride. It's been a lot of learning and a lot of adapting to just whatever's thrown our way, but it's nice to be able to do something at least.
So another question, right, would be Ashley Vox. She went toe-to-toe with the former champ.
Yep.
She has these crazy intergender matches, and then she also has these crazy women matches. Tell us a little bit about her, and also tell us a little about your favorite match from her, and also some of the matches that you would say these are like matches that people should check out.
Ashley Vox is just unreal. I can't believe that we still get to work with her, because I'm just shocked that she's not signed yet. Speaking of adapting, she can just adapt to any situation, really just works with so many people. She has so many different types of matches. I look at the Anthony Green match from No Control in 2018 is one of my favorite matches in Limitless history. And AG and I talked about it recently. everything kind of lined up on that night. And it was really such a breakout match for Ashley Vox, who I think was really looking for that at that point. They were just on the same page that night. The environment too at the Portland Club in Portland was just off the charts. And she's had, that really started quite a wave of momentum for her that led to the Limitless Wrestling Championship match against MJF, May of 2019. She had an incredible rivalry with Chris Statlander, which I hope to see on TV someday. They meshed very well. They had an unsanctioned match. They had a last creature standing match, both of them off the hook. And just Ashley will do anything, like from stabbing Brandon Kirk's head with skewers to hooking in the real catch submission with a turnbuckle in Chris Statlander's mouth. She just does it all. And she's so fun. She's so connectable too to an audience. I think about how many people, like, I love talking to fans after shows and feeling who they liked, who they didn't like, what worked, what didn't. And common consensus from men, women, children, anybody watching these shows is they love the real catch Ashley Vox. They believe in her. They want to cheer for her. They want to root for her. And that's something that doesn't always translate with a wrestler to an audience. But I think with Ashley Vox, it always seems to.
Like, she definitely is like a standout to me. Like I mentioned, Ace Romero being a staple. She's definitely a staple to me, especially as one of the women that just like hold it down, like just brawling with everyone, going to toe to toe. Like, yeah. I could definitely say some of the matches I've seen from her, I'm just like, yo, she's really just like handing it. Like, she's really
crazy. Yeah.
It's nuts. So you have this one match, right? It's a match where everyone would say to themselves, it's like you get a mix of everything, essentially. So it's JT Dunn, MJF, Ace Romero, right?
Yep.
Green. How did this all happen? This is like a recipe for success. You're getting a guy who's currently in AEW, a guy who's currently signed to the WWE, and these are like these two are just former champions. This is the cream of the crop, in my opinion, right now in Limitless Wrestling. All those guys in that match. Like, how did that happen? What led to that match?
Well, that was to crown the first ever Limitless Wrestling champion. And it was really the four guys who I felt, and I think everybody felt, stood at the top of Limitless Wrestling at that point. JT Dunn and MJF had aligned themselves together. Anthony Green and Ace Romero had quite a love-hate relationship throughout their time in Limitless Wrestling. They were a team. They were rivals. And it just all boiled down to this, the richest prize in the company that was finally had arrived after nearly 4 years of people asking. These were the four guys who felt that they, had the claim to be the champion. And I think this is another one where I got to stand back and watch this one as it was happening. It felt like magic, and I hate to use that term. I feel it's so cliche, but I think everyone had just waited so long for this moment. Limitless Wrestling fans they were waiting in anticipation for any kind of championship, something big to fight for. And these were the guys, these were the four pillars, I would say, of Limitless Wrestling at that point. And what a fun match it was. What a mesh of styles, because you have Ace Romero, the powerhouse. You have MJF looking to cut any corner possible. JT Dunn has the elbow ready and loaded at any time. And Anthony Green, I think, is just such an unreal competitor. I think he's like an Ashley Vox who can really fit into any situation, and you believe in him from start to finish. And this one, I would say definitely seek out if you haven't seen it, because these four just went at it. And I think it's like 25 minutes long. They're jumping off lockers onto each other, fighting all throughout the venue. And it's such a wide array of styles, but such a fun moment.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like, especially the ending of that match, I was like, wow, like nothing. Yeah. I actually thought to myself, I was like, wow, okay, so you're crowning your champion, all this goes out, and then this is how it happens. And I was like, this is amazing. Because me personally, I was so invested. I was like, I want to know more. I want to keep watching more Limitless, and I think that's like, for anyone who's watching Limitless or who hasn't watched it, it's a great introduction, or it's a great match to watch again. This laid the groundwork for so much, especially like you just said, this is the first time the championship match for the Limitless title ever happened,
Right.
Because everyone's going to be like, damn, so many guys got cheated out of this match.
Yeah.
Now you have one of the guys.
Really, I mean, it was such a bang ending, and I laugh because a friend of mine was at that show and he was taking a video as that moment happened, and you watch everyone just jump out of their seats collectively because it's bang, and everybody kind of feels like they got cheated out of it except MJF, who wakes up as champion, which is just incredible.
It's something I've never seen before, and that's like I gotta give you guys an applause. Like, that was awesome. So another match, right? Chris Hero, right? Versus Zack Sabre Jr. Like, that's an awesome match. That's a great match. Like, as a special attraction match, I think that's incredible just to have those two guys in the ring together. In terms of how you did it, like, explain it to me, because I would love to take notes, because that's a great match. That's a match that all fans would love to see.
So we got kind of lucky on how that all came together. We had been working with Beyond and Evolve at that time, and this was our third show, so I was clueless still. But we were working with Beyond and Evolve about getting Zack Sabre Jr. up here and like splitting the flight, because he was going to be, I believe, in this region for like 2 weeks. And I think one weekend was going to be the Limitless show, and then the Beyond show the next weekend, I believe, was going to be the Evolve tapings. And originally, it was just going to be Zack Sabre Jr. on the card, and the Chris Hero thing came in late because Beyond ended up adding him, and he had the day before open. So obviously, like, when you have the opportunity to pull the trigger on a match like that last minute, you're going to try everything you can to make that happen. So it was kind of right place, right time that it came together, because Sabre was going to be doing something completely different until obviously that popped up. We had no intention of bringing in Chris Hero until we found out he had that day before open. And then it seemed like a no-brainer. So it was something that kind of came together pretty late, but it's so crucial looking back on the history of Limitless Wrestling, because that's what really got us on the map to people, because, we were 3 shows deep. We hadn't really made a big splash yet or solidified a reputation. And we were lucky that we had other people go to bat for us to bring these guys in, because, I don't know if they were just going to work an unknown promotion at that point and potentially get screwed over on money. They didn't know me from anybody. Right place, right time. It all came together. And that was a main event on a show that also had Ace Romero, AR Fox. So I think it drove a lot of new eyes to the product that we were trying to build, and not only drove them to watching the show, but a lot of different people attended the show than had ever before. It was our highest selling show ticket wise. I think that stood for nearly a year until January the following year. So it meant the world that we were able to host that match so early. It meant the world too that Chris and Zack also came in and had such a intense main event match that people still talk about to this day. And it's such a fun watch back. I watched it back a couple of weeks ago, actually, I was cutting up clips of it for something, and just I found myself sitting down watching the entire thing start to finish, because how could you not? It's the two of them in the ring together anywhere, not just in the Limitless match, anywhere feels like magic. But especially that night, it was just so important and so cool that we were able to host that so early, because I think it really solidified us in the eyes of anyone who was tuning in for the first time.
Like I said, you guys done so much for Maine, right? Now Maine's a destination. Like, everyone wants to check out this promotion or either work there. It's awesome. All right. So tell us a little bit about the road.
So there, especially in New England, there were so many wrestlers who just didn't have anything to do, because it seemed like to me, and I think it still does, a lot of the shows that are going on right now, or a lot of the promotions who are trying to do anything right now, is still frequently in the South. It's a lot of Florida. It's a lot of the southern region of the United States, or even some on the West Coast. But like New England, especially, I think a lot of the states had tighter restrictions on any kind of gathering, any kind of function happening. So a lot of venues were turning people down of doing anything there. A lot of schools were closed, and we had the luxury of, having a state with looser guidelines, having a kind of a concrete idea of something to do. And honestly, like, I went back and watched a lot of Mid-South wrestling in that point in time, and to try to figure out, okay, like, how can we take a taping weekend? Because we had done like dojo tapings before at our school. That's something that we typically did like a day after a Let's Wrestle show, which is our sister promotion. And that would be just for YouTube only. And I knew there wasn't much streaming on IWTV at the time. So I kind of took the two together and said, okay, how can we make a taping weekend into something that we could maybe build into an episodic thing that we could stream weekly and at least have, a few weeks of something to put out there that's new matches for the wrestlers, new content for the fans to watch, and something in a time when not many people are making anything to just have people sink their teeth into. And we took that and kind of we did a 2-day taping weekend at first for season 1. We did the same thing for season 2, but we kind of loaded it up a little more on what we're doing. We had a better idea after season 1 came out. And it's really a credit to the wrestlers. They make this happen because there's no fans right now. These are closed tapings. The people we have around ringside are either the wrestlers who are not wrestling at the time, extra referees, or students. So the wrestlers make this happen. They create their own environment. They create their matches. They have a lot of freedom with the matches that we put together or the stories that we try to tell. And a lot of them go above and beyond and really create content that goes along with the stories that they're having on the road. And I think in the end, it's just going to make fans buy into them more. I look at someone like a Becca, Love Doug, people who are really, going leaps and bounds above and beyond to try to really ingrate themselves in the fan base and build themselves in Limitless Wrestling. And it's been a really cool project because it's given us the opportunity to work with so many new wrestlers who we probably never would have got the chance to work with in a capacity like this. But now the pandemic gives us that option because it's a mix of local talent who are already on the roster. It's a mix of people we were using on Let's Wrestle, people who are from our own school, and people who are from surrounding schools like the New England Pro Wrestling Academy, or people who have trained under Matt Taven and Mike Bennett out of Rhode Island, people from the Top Rope Wrestling Academy as well. Just a ton of different places. And it's kind of back to the original concept of Limitless Wrestling. It's a ton of different flavors of ice cream put together. There's going to be some really standout matches that I think you could see on any Limitless show. There's also going to be some first time matches. Like there's been a few wrestlers who have literally made their professional wrestling debut on the road. And I think it's just such a cool mix of everything that encapsulates professional wrestling in one program that's weekly. And it's a credit to IWTV as well for giving us a platform like that, because granted, we could probably do something on YouTube and Facebook, but we're not going to be able to reach the amount of fans and the new fans that we do on IWTV. So I'm forever grateful for that.
That was perfect. That answer, you knocked it out of the park with that one. So,
perfect.
So my next question, you might have answered it already. Why should fans check out Limitless Wrestling?
Well, I think there's something for everybody in Limitless Wrestling. Like we talked about earlier, there's just so many different wrestlers, so many different styles, so many different characters. You can browse the YouTube channel, the IWTV archives. I guarantee you're going to find a wrestler you like. You're going to find a wrestler you know, and you're probably going to discover one that you don't know yet that you end up liking. I really try to mix up the cards that we present. The road is such a smorgasbord of independent wrestling in the Northeast and beyond. It's just so cool. Like I would just say, give it a shot. If you're looking for something different, if you're looking for something fun, and if you're looking for some high caliber stuff, go back through the archives, because there's a lot of people you're seeing on AEW, you're seeing on WWE. They've come through Limitless Wrestling a time or two. And, I think it shows that probably some people here right now are probably going to be in those same positions in a couple of years. So I think it's a fun view all around. Anything you're looking for, like we said earlier, house fights, lucha, mat technicians, comedy matches. There's really something for everybody. The possibilities of matches is certainly limitless, not to be so cliche, but it's just true. I like to have a little something for everybody. So give it a shot, whether on YouTube, IWTV, wherever you view wrestling, definitely give it a look, because I'm sure we've got something for you.
Is there anything you want to plug? Just want to share with us, tell everyone like, hey, check out the school, anything.
Yeah. So, I mean, we try to post something daily, but if not daily, we've got multiple things weekly on youtube.com/limitless wrestling. LimitlessWrestling.com has any news, notes, merchandise that you're looking for. Shop IWTV.com. We've got 4 designs, actually some that are being designed by our own roster member, Danger Kid, which is really cool. So you can grab it on there. Facebook.com/Limitless Wrestling. We're at Limitless Wrestling on Instagram, at LW Main on Twitter. We've got nearly 60 events, I think, in full on IWTV that you can go watch. You can use the promo code Limitless when signing up. Gets you a 5-day free trial if you just want to test it. But there's all the full episodes of The Road, because on YouTube, we don't post a lot of the promos. We don't post a lot of the skits that we do. That's pretty much primarily for the full episode viewing. So give those a look on IWTV. You can really find us anywhere on any social media site, and we'll get back with you too if you have any questions, concerns, anything. Just shoot us a message. We're on socials all the time, so I'd be happy to talk to you.